started, starting with additions or modification to the agenda. I think folks saw my email. Oh, Joy's asking to be promoted. And it looks like Talitha Consultants is still out. I guess we can leave it on the agenda if we want to talk about it briefly, but before they get here, but I think we're going to try to reschedule for next week. So would love a motion on the agenda.
Motion to accept the agenda.
Great, moved by Commissioner Durfee. Seconded by Commissioner Gamache. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the minutes for December 22nd.
I'll move to approve those minutes from the 22nd.
Moved by Commissioner Durfee.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paulino. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. With that, we'll move on to our public forum. We have a few folks in public forum, so I'm going to, did anybody sign up specific? So the way we typically do this as a commission, given that it's a commission, is we have the people who signed up speak first. And then if anyone else is on, all they have to do is raise their hand. And then throughout, the Q&A section is also open. So feel free to use the Q&A section, and I will do my best to interrupt the discussion to read off those comments and thoughts. And if it ends up being longer and we don't have a few people, also happy to enable people to speak again. But Shannon, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. So we do have several people that have signed up. I'll just read down like the first 5 names. The first one I don't see on the list: William Emmons, Julia Pupko, Jess Laporte, and Grace Feel, and Alexandra Sturges. And then there's a few more, so I'll just kind of go from the start here. William, I don't see William in attendance here. Julia. Okay, Julia.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to start by acknowledging all of the hard work that community members, leaders of the Battery Park movement, and also all of you on the Joint Committee and Police Commission and City Council have done in this process. And I just wanted to say that it was really disappointing last night, to put it mildly, that the mayor's veto was not overridden by the City Council, and really goes to show that more work is needed to be done. And I sent in a much longer public comment, but to kind of summarize that, I just wanted to kind of put some food for thought on the table and ask kind of how us as a very engaged community can better engage with the Joint Committee so we can all work together and continue to move this process forward, because it is so important that a community oversight model of the police is put on the ballot at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I just think that the entire process will be much more effective if we can all just work together. And that is all that I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia.
Okay, sorry, 1 second. Next is Jess Laporte, followed by Grace. Okay, Jess.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jess Laporte. I'm a cis Black woman. I live in Burlington. I've spoken with this committee as well as the Police Commission in the past and been very vocally in support of the charter change proposal that Councillor Freeman brought forward related to community control of the police. I also did drop off of an email chain with you all over the holidays, and I wanted to pick up with this committee. I heard from you all when this was referred to you that you needed more time to understand how community control of police works, what an appropriate model would be. You wanted expert opinion on it, and also felt that the Police Commission should have been more involved. And now we have all the time in the world because we aren't bringing this to the ballot in March, which is really disappointing. I think it's really ironic that the same council and mayor that said 4 months, the reason why they couldn't take disciplinary action against 3 violent officers in the force was that in the city charter, the only person that can do that is the chief of police. And now somehow many of those counselors and the mayor are saying, actually, a lot of this can just go through ordinances, which don't have control over the police union. And I do feel that this body, especially the police commissioners, raise concerns about how does this interact with the police union contract. And so I'm turning to you all. I think it's very unfortunate that we're not in a place where we can at least get public opinion through the ballot in March to know if this is something that the community is motivated and desiring. But now I believe, I'm not exactly clear, I believe this is the body that we as the public should work with. This joint committee was created out of the reality of these protests, calling for racial justice in Burlington. So I would love to understand how I, as a member of the public, can collaborate with this body, bring input, and learn about what you are doing as a body in the same way that I was able to work alongside Councillor Freeman and to participate in the Charter Change Committee meetings. I also would appreciate to understand, I would like to see community control of the police on the agenda and regularly and into the future, whatever it takes to do the research and to feel knowledgeable and to bring meaningful proposals forward that have investigatory and disciplinary power and independence from the police. I do not feel comfortable as a member of the public that I have to, in order to be a part of this public forum, I have to interact with the police department, as Shannon Trammell works for the police department, and that is my mechanism to engage with this body. I would appreciate other options and I would appreciate an independent body, but in the meantime, I would like to know how the public participates. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Okay. Next is Grace, followed by Alexandra Sturgis, Zoe Conger, and Leila Fortunoff. Grace. Okay,
Hey,
Grace.
Shannon, I'm wondering if it's possible to let some other folks speak and come back to me. You could also just skip me and I can raise my hand at the end too. Thanks.
Alex Sturgis.
Hi, I'd also like to let folks speak before me. Feel free to move me to the back of the line and I'd be happy to just raise my hand at the end as well. I just want to make sure everyone's voice is heard.
Great, so thanks everyone. We don't have a time limit on this, so I don't think we're gonna not get to folks for how many people are on right now, so.
Zoe, followed by Leila, and then Thea Zaliski. Zoe.
Hi, my name is Zoe Conger, and I'm 4. I'm white and I use they them pronouns. I moved to Vermont in 2015, right before my freshman year of high school, and I graduated from Burlington High School in 2019. Yesterday, the City Council was unable to overrule Mayor Weinberger's veto of the charter change for community control of police. This happened despite the majority of the council voting in favor of this change and hundreds of Burlingtonians calling into meeting after meeting in order to voice their support for this charter change. Councillor Freeman, the author of this charter change proposal, worked tirelessly to include as many voices as possible in their proposal, and it was clear representation of the will of the people, particularly BIPOC members of the community. Despite this, the council did not vote to override the veto. Instead, they rejected the will of the public, and they chose not to give the public the ability to make their own decisions about their own public safety, decisions that affect them every single day. However, the veto was not the first roadblock this proposal received. Before the City Council is even able to discuss this proposal, this joint committee tried to halt the movement of this proposal by offering the suggestion that this proposal be subject to more revisions and overview and changes. And so the people in this joint commission and the counselors that voted against overriding vetoes cited various reasons why they could not support this action. And a running theme in their speeches was that they did not believe that the Burlington Police Department, they did believe the Burlington Police Department needed to be held accountable and they wanted to support community controlled police. However, they believed that there were issues that still needed to be worked out. So tonight my question is, what are the next steps you will be taking? Stating that you want to support community controlled police is not enough. What actions will you be taking in the following year in order to allow for a charter change to happen? How will you be working to engage more with your fellow committee members and the city council and the community in order to reach the compromise you so desire? Along the path to charter change, what additional measures are you hoping to implement? Many people on this committee and on the city council spoke about the benefits of ordinances to help in this issue. What ordinances will you propose and fight to pass? Are you truly willing as the Public Safety Committee to look beyond the system of police and come up with revolutionary and innovative ideas that will eliminate violence and white supremacy in our community and bring about real public safety? Will you be rejecting Chief Murad's proposal to increase the police force, instead look more thoughtfully at alternatives to policing? What can the community do to work alongside you and help you? One measure has failed to pass, but don't let that stop you from trying to make a difference. And furthermore, do not be fooled into thinking your words are enough. They are meaningless without actions to accompany them. There's still much that can and needs to be done in order to root out the public health and safety crisis of white supremacy and racism in our community. And we the people need to hear your strategies and plans for moving forward and be involved closely and intimately with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Okay, next is Leila Fortunoff, Thea Zaliski, and then Grace Horlick. Okie doke.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, yeah, my name's Lila. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white cis woman. I live in Ward 3. I first just want to say such a huge thank you to Councillor Freeman and Councillor Hightower for all of the emotional and other labor that you put into the charter change and trying to get the other councillors to look at it. I just really appreciate you two so much, and want to start out by saying that. Yeah, other commissioners, other Councillor Paulino, I think that some of you probably already understand that you're getting a lot of folks who are involved with the charter change process who are extremely frustrated with being told, just as Jess and Zoe have said, that people in the city, people with power to make decisions about this, the police in this city want more police accountability, but they don't like the way that the community came together and said, this is how we should do it. So definitely sharing sentiments with Zoe and Jess of, okay, Commissioner Seguino, you wanted us to have more time. You wanted to go to NACOL. I can't remember exactly what other commissioners wanted, but I know we wanted more time. And just like Jess was saying, okay, now we have this time. What are you all going to do about it? Because I recognize that you all have a lot on your plates, right? And this is not your full-time job. This is just one of your roles in your lives. And so, and you also have no authority to make the police department do anything. And so that's why we wanted this whole separate board. And so I know that there are lots of limitations and I don't know exactly how they all work. And so I would love to hear from all of you about what are the next steps, just as Jess and Zoe were saying, what are the next steps? How are we going to figure this out? Because right now you have a very disheartened and disillusioned, huge number of community members who are disheartened and disillusioned at this process and with city government right now. And we need your help because we don't know how this all works, and we need you to help us along. I also want to just say that I know that Police Chief Murad was asking the city council back in December for more money to reverse the budgetary decision to decrease the police budget, which was decided after unprecedented community outcry to decrease the police budget to defund the police. And now he's asking for more money, and I strongly oppose that. The current number, like the cap on the police officers, the budget was decreased so that the cap would be lowered to match up with the proportion of police to number of citizens, that the size of Burlington, basically. So I strongly support, or I strongly oppose hiring more full officers that would be armed. I think that there is a potential opportunity to hire unarmed police employees that are like social workers or CSOs or CSLs, any sort of unarmed employee, because clearly the police chief thinks that there are gaps that are going to be occurring. But I strongly oppose hiring any more full officers, and I don't know what power you all have over that situation, but I don't know. I want to make that note. Okay, thank you so much. That's all.
Thanks for that, Lila.
Next is Thea Zeliski, followed by Grace Horlick and Phoebe Perrin. Sorry, Thea, I did think I saw you, but I don't see you in the list now. Grace. And Grace, I'm unable to identify you as well. Next is Phoebe, and then we'll circle back to the two. Phoebe.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
great. So it looks like in the Q&A, someone was asking if Zenavia could speak as soon as possible. They can go before me. That's fine if you want to do that.
So thanks for that. One, I don't actually see Zenavia in the attendees.
It looks like Silas Goldman. I don't know
if they're with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not sure.
Hello? Hi. Wait, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I am with Silas. And, sorry. But no, I think there's a lot to talk about, and I really am not someone who dwells on what should have been done and what mistakes were made, regardless if I think the mistake was extremely detrimental to this work and the work that I am doing, regardless if there's a yes or no. With that being said, I think I look at what the problems were and what people have specifically said Perry's proposal was lacking or what caused that pushback and turmoil. And I picked up on a lot of things. One is that in terms of time and how long or exactly the process of it getting through democratically, how reliable that will be. I think it's important to understand that Black bodies in the democratic process have continuously been pessimistic, because the democratic process does not always work for us. With that being said, realistically, this established body that folks are saying would be kind of a piggyback off of Perry's proposal is already established, and we're looking at it, which is Police Commission. But the issue with police commission is that it's much like other things that politicians hand to us for free, and it's half-assed. Police commission could be this new change that we see and love in Freeman's proposal, or loved in Freeman's proposal, which again, I want to nod my head off to that as well, because we put so much more effort that was actually even visible behind the scenes in terms of explaining that and really translating this kind of language to our people. But I think hands down, building more and speaking more to what this could be, this is not a board that speaks for all BIPOC folks. And it's hard to say that because I'm only looking at a few BIPOC folks. And a board about safety and security with police, knowing that Black people are the main targets to that kind of harm. With that being said, when I look at police commission and what that already is and could be, what I mentioned last night during our talk, during the call and during our public forum, was finally being able to have a seat. And to specify and make that a little bit more logical, having a seat at this table isn't an ask, but a requirement at this point. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, and we talked about putting that effort to ensure safety and security for BIPOC folks in Burlington, continuously, even before there was talk about a charter, Black voices have been neglected when speaking about the importance of security, even in their own homes. And what that means is I can look at police commission and put all of my trust and hope into that. But at the end of the day, police commission isn't going to be there on my front doorstep when DeFranco or someone comes knocking at my front door. But when I look at folks like Zariah, when I look at folks like Randall, like Jabulani, I really think in my head and can at least for a split second believe that they understand what I mean when I say I don't feel safe, and relay what that means when I say I don't feel safe. We have the opportunity to build on this and create something just as revolutionary as Perry's proposal. But until we continue to focus, and I want to again make it clear, someone said it last night, the only proposal that actually centered BIPOC folks was Freeman's proposal, which is why I want to really, really make it clear that that is why BIPOC folks gravitated towards that proposal, is because they saw themselves in these conversations. That is all.
Thank you, Zenavia.
Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Phoebe Perrin.
Hi, my name's Phoebe. I'm a cis white woman living in Ward 2. I've lived in Burlington for 5 years now, and I'm currently working as a paraeducator. I'm engaging here today to talk about community control of the police. I, like others in my community, am deeply disappointed by the mayor's veto of Freeman's proposed charter change last night. That being said, I'm still invested in finding another avenue to create community control of the police in Burlington. This seems like community control of the police seems like the best path to making Burlington a safe city for people who have been historically marginalized by the police. I'm new to this work. I'm new to understanding city government and how police work, so I don't have any suggestions this evening for where we go from here, but I'd like to make it clear that I want more police accountability in Burlington, and that I and many members of my community are going to be engaging to make this a reality. And we need you and your support to do that. So I'd like to urge you all, especially the white members of this committee, in the upcoming process to not only listen to, but center the voices of people who have been historically marginalized by the police in the process of shifting disciplinary and investigatory power out of the hands of police. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Okay, circling back up to the top, Grace file.
Yeah, it's file. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Last night was extremely disappointing for a lot of us. I just want to acknowledge and express my really, really deep gratitude for the amount of work that Counselor Freeman and Counselor Hightower have put into community control of police alongside many, many, many people, including myself, who work full-time jobs as well and are not paid to learn about charter changes or any of that, yet we have taken it upon ourselves to learn all of this information so that we can come to you and try to affect some positive change in our community. Yeah, and I think that the police commission, in my opinion, the police commission has a lot of important work to do, and you are deeply, I would say, embedded within the police department, right? You are part of the police department. You have meetings inside of the police department. You have police department emails. There is someone from the police department who's facilitating this meeting, right? And I think ultimately that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for there to be an independent body that is independent from the police department, that has power over the police. And that is what we've been asking for. And I feel that that can exist alongside of the police commission. I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive. There's been a lot of talk. That was mostly what happened last night, was people saying we need to come together, we need to find consensus. And we do need to come together and we do need to find consensus. And there has been broad consensus from the community around community control of police. And I think another thing that came up in some of these meetings was that there wasn't enough time and that this felt rushed. And I think now you all and we all have lots and lots and lots of time to continue to work on community control of police and continue to envision a Burlington that is safe for all of us. And I just wanted to let you know that we are all watching and we are all at these meetings. We have been at these meetings and we will continue to show up at these meetings. And we are committed to this, and I hope you are committed to this too and will join us. So thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Alexandra Sturges.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Alex.
Okay, I'm going to keep it brief. My name's Alex. I'm a cis white woman and a lifelong resident of this area. I'd also like to echo what others have said, to just really acknowledge everyone's hard work on this committee, including and especially Councilors Hightower and Freeman, and all of the folks who have continued, who worked on the charter change just tirelessly, on top of just other commitments and jobs and a lot going on. And also, like Zanavia said, I don't want to dwell, but what happened last night was disappointing and shameful. And what I'd like to bring up to this commission today is just how can we move forward and center the safety and well-being of BIPOC folks in police oversight, because I heard so much from last night from the mayor and from Councilor Shannon, Paul, Paulino, and Mason and Carpenter about themselves and their own personal dilemmas and their concern about the white police chief and the white mayor, and just very little to nothing about the safety and sanctity of the lives of BIPOC Burlingtonians. And Councilor Freeman's proposal was the only one that did center those things. And moving forward, knowing that we do now have all of this time, I just want to make sure that we're super clear that that argument of like, oh, we haven't had enough time to look at this is no more. Just like the argument, oh, we haven't heard from enough people, even though we have 150 people signed up for public forum, is just ridiculous on its face. And so we got to stop pulling that one out because it's nonsense. Something I thought about a lot today, sort of sitting in that disappointment, was how compassion without action is just observation. So if we're just observing injustice and not acting on it, that's exactly what we're doing. So the compassion without that further action just means nothing. And so moving forward, I want to make sure that we keep that action in our compassion and that we're centering Black safety and Black life in Burlington and police oversight. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
The other two, Thea, I do see Grace Horlick on, so to circle back to her, Grace.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, I was on the call as well last night, and it was a bit of a, disappointment. I just felt like after everyone who spoke so honestly and personally about how the sort of feelings they had around this, and especially our BIPOC community members who put themselves out there and really spoke on things honestly. I just was really surprised that this wasn't moved on, and I'm concerned that this is going to fall into the backdrop. And I think as the standing sort of public safety overseers, I would like to ask of you that we move forward with this in whatever way we can to make sure that that we're hearing from our community that the public safety system as it stands is making people feel unsafe. And those people have raised their voice and done all of this work up until this point to show that to the officials of the city. And I think we just need the checks and balances on our police officers. They can't police themselves, and we can't settle for any sort of scenario where there isn't an independent way to discipline and investigate them aside from the Burlington Police Department itself. And also, I just believe that there is this need to sort of focus on the ways in which we can start to transform this system in ways where we can fill the needs that police officers may not be best suited for, such as having more mental health and social workers in communities and helping people with those issues, rather than having an officer show up at their home or in their space and potentially lead to more trauma in their lives. So yeah, I think just generally we need to treat this as an urgent issue and make sure that our policing is being independent, are being disciplined and independently investigated. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Grace.
And that is all of the emails that I've received.
Great, thank you, Shannon. So at this point, if people who have not spoken want to raise their hand, Lauren, I saw you in the Q&A. I'm happy to read your comment, but you can also raise your hand, and anyone else can at this point to speak. Seeing no hands, I'm going to go ahead and read Lauren's comment, but folks can still raise their hand. Lauren said, "My name is Lauren Bergeron. I'm an educator who's been a Burlington resident for 26 years. I'm raising a young child with another white educator who's a lifelong resident of Burlington. I live in Ward 2. I support community control of police wholeheartedly. The mayor's veto words last night and the vote last night was incredibly disheartening." And we have Silas raising their hand.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is actually Emma Chaffee. I'm also with Silas and Zenavia. I'm calling in because I just want to say that no proposal is perfect, right? But Perry's proposal was progress. And though that progress was shamefully shut down, we can still build upon it. As Zenavia and others said, Perry's proposal was the only one that centered Black people and other people of color. Before this committee takes any further steps, it needs to be set in stone and publicly, confidently declared by you that BIPOC folks will be the center of and in control of any proposed control group. Last night, I wanted to tell Joan, Chip, Karen, and Sarah that it was unfathomable to me that just one of them had to change their vote in order for thousands of Burlington residents to be able to vote. That just one of them got to decide for all those who spoke last night and for all of the BIPOC activists who have spent months on this work. Moving forward, respect that work that Black women and femmes have done and do the honorable thing and represent what the public wants. Also, I want to remind everybody that the people are powerful. The Battery Park movement, for example, is powerful, it's transformative, and it's revolutionary. We can garner statewide support for a BIPOC-centered proposal. Let us show you that. Black liberation should be the foundation of every choice that is made on this council and in the Police Commission. Thank you.
Great, thank you. If anybody else wants to speak, feel free to raise your hand. Other than that, we will close a public forum. But again, if folks want to type in the Q&A, I'll try to keep up with those comments. And we have Eli.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I don't have that much to say, and I don't want to repeat too much of what other people said. Obviously, last night was disappointing. I just think that the descriptions of police just being emboldened to do whatever they want and knowing that there's not going to be any accountability by a bunch of people who spoke last night, describing that is pretty disturbing. And I just think that the fact that the veto was upheld probably is going to embolden those police officers who enjoy not having to follow the law even more. And the practical point of that is that what you do in this committee and on the city council and just views that you make public can have the impact of showing the police that accountability is coming, and hopefully the effect of that will be less violence against marginalized people. And I think that's the goal. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. We have both Jess and Nikki raising their hands. If we could let Nikki speak first, because I think Jess has gone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I don't have a comment officially prepared, but I would like to just remind all the white folks that are on this chat or on the video that centering whiteness here, like we heard last night, is so problematic. And I would like to remind everyone that's white, that's been a part of this, that this is not about us, and that we need to confront the cops inside our head that may be that nagging voice saying, well, what about public safety? What about public safety? And remind ourselves that public safety must include BIPOC folks. Otherwise, it is completely ineffective and it upholds white supremacy. I think that's all I have to say. Thanks. And Black Lives Matter.
Thank you, Nikki. We have Jess and then Silas and or company.
Hi, sorry, I realized that I already spoke, but you know, something about hearing the voices of other members of the community always reminds me of other important elements that I hope are at the table. I'm an educated Black woman with a salaried position and benefits. I've been fortunate enough, though I grew up in a low-income family, to currently have a relative level of financial stability and housing security. And as I'm not a member of the trans community and don't experience mental illness in a way that impacts my daily life, I actually, as far as Black people go, have very little chance of having any interaction with the police, let alone a negative interaction. Just like many of the Black people on this body, I know how to behave. I know how to present myself in the community. I know how to be quiet when it's going to be dangerous to be a Black woman. I know that the Black women on this call understand how easily our anger is weaponized. And I know the Black men on this call know that too. I wanted to speak again specifically to talk about representation in the Community Control Board as presented in Perry Freeman's proposal, because representation is not just about skin color, it's also about life experience. And I know that some members of the Police Commission not only are Black, but have a wide variety of life experience. And we're at a place in Burlington where they woke up and they realized that things were so messy in the police department that they wanted to make sure that if nothing else, people could say it's racially diverse. And it's overrepresented right now. But there is nothing guaranteeing that the Police Commission isn't going to go back to an old white boys club again. So many parts of Councilor Freeman's proposal were criticized, specifically around representation, because for some reason we feel like as long as it's not too bad right now, we shouldn't rock the boat to ask for transformative change. I'm not exactly sure if the director of police transformation is on this call, because unlike public servants like yourself, his face is anonymous in these video calls, and I don't know if he is listening. But I know that you all understand that there's something deeply problematic that one of the major reasons used against Councilor Freeman's proposal was low morale, attrition, and inability to recruit police officers. Jabu, I know that you're a police officer, and I would hope that you would be proud to serve alongside other police officers that care about public safety rather than their own independence. I feel like the members of this commission and of the Public Safety Committee should be the first people to say that we want a police chief that wants to do an excellent job, not have incidents that would even go to this committee, and then that would actually be a point of pride and recruitment. Like, that would be amazing. So that's where my mind is. And I know that there's discussion of staffing that's going to be happening later in this meeting. It's really suspect to me that there's nothing up on board docs even to reference what brought this discussion to this body. I'm on there right now, and I know that there have been presentations at previous meetings, and I know that Murad has made his case, and I know that the mayor has made his case on this topic, but as a member of the public signing in tonight, I have no way to reference those previous documents that would maybe guide me as to what you all are supposed to be discussing tonight. So thank you.
Thanks, Jess. And then we have Silas one more time.
Hi, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that I spoke again as well, but I think it's important that BIPOC voices are speaking today, especially after being very clearly ignored yesterday. I wanted to speak a bit more. Again, I piggyback of what Jess said. I think it's very important to hear the voices and almost catch on to things that aren't really brought up normally in these conversations. But I noticed the word accountability has come up a lot. And I think the term, or when we speak about police accountability, that's not something that we haven't already spoken about and touched on. But what I don't hear is inner politics accountability. Yes, our proposal, or what the folks in the community have rallied so hard for, wasn't exactly your ideal representation of what you think accountability looks like, but what accountability looks like amongst you folks is to hold your coworkers accountable. Answer the questions that they didn't have answers to last night that we're giving you right now, whether or not they understood fully what their actions were when they voted no, or their actions were when they voted yes. It's important to make sure that you're relaying that message, because they don't speak to us as often and as casually like this as you do, or as you are doing right now. And listening is also subjective as well. But when we talk about inner politics accountability, I noticed that by saying an all BIPOC board, that sounds, the first thing I hear is that it's bias. First thing that I hear is that it's segregating the actual thoughts and process for this work. But understand that things like HBCUs, Black unions in politics, Black caucuses are not new and have actually proven to make so much more change by having those dedicated spaces and centered spaces. With that, understanding that if we were to build on something like this police commission, that the chief would be involved, although I do not personally agree with that, the chief should be the only white person in that room. When we say inner politics accountability, if the chief was the only white person in that space, they are experiencing all different backgrounds of communication that they will not get in their safe space of this broken system. On top of what I meant when I was saying we can build more on this police commission, if this is going to be an all BIPOC board, I would assume that everyone is also thinking that they also have paid jobs. But on top of that, it's also very clear from what I've learned with our conversations with folks here in city council or outside city council as well, is that politicians expect for us to hold them accountable for free. And with that, is that holding you accountable for free also means that you have zero obligation to digest that accountability. With paid jobs, you are obligated to not only do that job correctly as a BIPOC person on that board, but with a paid job, you are also letting folks know that this is actual work systemically that needs to be held to a higher degree. And that was my last point. Thank you.
Thanks. And that was Zenavia. Thank you, Zenavia. Great. Thanks for those comments. With that, I'll close public forum. I'll allow myself the latitude, and you all can roll me out of order to respond to a few of those things. Jabu, I'll start and then I'll come to you if that's okay. So the first thing is the BPD support for this commission is, as we started, I wasn't sure who our support would be. Shannon, I believe, volunteered, and I'm appreciative of her for doing that. I don't want anybody to have to interact with anyone in the police department if they don't feel comfortable. Know that still we haven't had a lot of things with public forum, but I will see if on the back end, one, if we can have marginalized voices self-identify themselves, and then two, if you do not feel comfortable with the sign-up process, you can always send me an email, and then I will do a better job of liaisoning beforehand to make sure that we've got a list. And then also, you never have to sign up. I think as long as I am chair, I will continue to make sure that folks who are in this space can raise their hand to speak. And I will also do a better job of letting folks self-identify themselves as a marginalized voice. There was a question on the agenda and the BPD staffing discussion. I apologize. That was my fault. This is an item that the council requested that the police commission take up. And I believe that that request was made after a recent police commission meeting. And so, but the council wanted an answer before the next police commission meeting. So there was some discussion about whether or not it would be a discussion here in the joint committee or if the police commission would hold a special meeting. I'm not actually sure if what was decided. And so when we get to that item, I am not 100% sure what will happen. At that point, I will step down as chair and let Commissioner Jabu take over as chair, because it's really supposed to be a police commission focused discussion. And so as they're supposed to be giving feedback to the council, it's a little bit more about them than it is about myself or Councillor Perry or Franklin. The other question is, I appreciate the thank yous. I do feel like I have to call out that it was really Perry and the community members led by BIPOC, femme, and non-binary folks, but others as well who created the resolution and did all the research. Everything else, I read the draft for the first time a month ago when it was already in its complete stages. And so I am, I think, but an ally. And so just wanted to make that clear. And then Jabu, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it was just point of information. I believe it was Ms. Laporte. I think she stated that I was a police officer, and I would like to go on the record and say that I've never been employed by the police department, any police department, and I am not an officer.
Great. And one more thing I wanted to mention is this, I am the chair of this committee. My name is Zora Hightower. I'm also a counselor, as I think most of you know. The co-chair of this committee is Shireen Hart, who is on the Police Commission and is also the co-chair of the Police Commission. Karen, go ahead.
I also have a point of information. We don't have police emails. We have city emails. Our emails are not BPD emails.
Great. So some action items, I think, for me coming out of this, just to wrap up that conversation, is to make sure that the sign up makes clear that you can also email me if you would like to sign up, to make clear that you do not have to sign up if you want to speak, and to make sure that we're centering marginalized voices in both the sign up and in the raise hand function. Then we can go through the agenda. I guess I want to call out that the things that I heard is, one more thing is why I don't know if somebody asked about why what happened yesterday wasn't on the agenda. We made the agenda before. I think even the veto was made. We discussed what would be on the agenda before we knew that a veto was coming. And then the other thing is, how do we work with the joint committee on the next iteration of the charter? I'm going to also cheat and give us some time to discuss that before we close today. I guess we could do that under 4.0 next meeting agenda items. Yeah, I think that was the majority. I hope that addresses everyone's questions. If I missed something that you still have, or if that just created more questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A and or comments. With that, I will turn to item 3, understanding. I know, I'm sorry, folks, that you came here to hear us talk about something specific. I don't think this will be a very long meeting, or if it is, then hopefully we can switch 4.01 and 3.03. But I will and by that I mean talking about what you all just addressed is about before we talk about BPD staffing, although I assume most people are probably interested in both. But I'll move us on to 3.01 just to hear back on references from the BPD assessment. One more thing, I'm sorry that I forgot to address. I realize you all can't see who's on the call. So the last thing that I wanted to say is that both Chief John Murad and Director Kyle Dotson tend to join these calls as attendees, and then they are promoted to panelists when an item comes up that is relevant for them to speak on, or when one of the commissioners has a question for them or anything else like that. And they tend to be on all of the calls as attendees, I think, to be available. Did I miss any other questions, commissioners? Perry was nodding on that one, so I think she'd noted that I'd missed that. Great. Okay, with that, I will move us to 3.01. And the background on this is for folks who are maybe new to this meeting, is we've been working through the process of 2 different assessments, which were brought about by the racial justice resolution that was passed in June. And it called for an assessment, and this body decided to split that into 2 assessments. One assessment that was specifically around community feedback. We're hoping to have that process start much earlier than it has, but I think it'll actually kick off next week. I'm hoping that will be a part of the answer in terms of how we work through some of this, some better way to get community feedback as this body. The second RFP, which means request for proposals, is specifically on a Burlington Police Department assessment. We met I think December 22nd, and selected a group to do an assessment specifically on the Burlington Police Department, which is, there was a clear kind of winner from the process that we went through. We did a voting process ahead of time and then discussed it on the meeting. And one of us, Karen, Commissioner Durfee, went and got references for those, we hope, and she's giving a report back. So Karen, the floor is yours.
Hi, I have an unstable internet connection upstairs, so I apologize. The references, I called the references to the preferred consultancy that we voted on, and I called on December 23rd. So I have not prepared a full report because I am still waiting for people to get back to me. So there haven't been any responses. There've been a couple of phone tags. People are just getting back to work on January 4th. Today is the 5th. I do have several emails and several meetings lined up.
Okay. I think Joy is a panelist. Is that true? Okay. Quick question. So I think I'm going to ask the commission to meet again next week since we missed Talitha. If we get something next week, is there a chance that we can get it in front of the council by January 19th in terms of voting, or is that unlikely?
What do you, in terms of choosing the assessment?
Yeah, so I assume, and I guess commissioners feel free to weigh in, but I assume, just knowing how long this process takes, I want us to skip as many procedural kind of gaps as possible. I don't know if the commission wants to vote to move this forward to council today if we don't have the references back yet. So I assume we'll actually do it next week. And if that's the case, can we still get it to a council vote? Because I think this has to go to Board of Finance and then maybe on the consent agenda for council.
I believe it just has to go to council. So if you meet on the 12th, it would need to be a quick turnaround, but I think we could get it on the 19th if we really push it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's do any other folks have thoughts on this item? Go ahead, Jabu.
My only, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
My only thought is that to not schedule it for the 12th, only because I'll get to that when we get to BPD staffing, but that is when the police commission has a special meeting scheduled to discuss staffing.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else on the recommendations? Then we'll move on to 3.02, which is the Talitha Consultants work planning. So I was hoping that they would be here with us. I think you all got my email, but we unfortunately still don't have a signed contract. I believe that will come through tomorrow, fingers crossed.
Really hoping. The last point we're waiting on is just some feedback from the city's insurer. Talitha, it turned out, didn't have quite our required insurance for a contract like this. We're working through it. I think we're very close. So gonna try to get that done as soon as we can.
Great. Thanks for all of your work on that. Sorry, this has been more of a
Yes,
project than we all
the
thought.
holidays slowed everything down, but we're moving. So
Okay, great. And so, so I assume that they will be here next week and we can start that work planning. I guess before then, if there's anything that we want them to consider going into work planning so that they can have something prepared for next week potentially, this would kind of be the time to say so, and I'll have Audrey take notes on that so that we can send them to Talitha. And for the public, this is Audrey Oliver. She's my personal council staff, and so she's a part-time city employee, and she's been great about helping us out on this commission, so that I don't have to keep track of everything. Any thoughts for next week and anything we want Talitha to focus on?
Sarah, I did begin reaching out to those that you all wrote down as like community organizations that you were hoping for Talitha to contact at some point when they begin their process. And some of those folks were wondering about when they could expect Talitha to get involved or to reach out to them, or how long, or a time frame for this process. And I was wondering if that's a question for next time too.
Great. I think that is a question for next time. I'm hoping January, but I think I've always been too optimistic on my timelines for every single part of this, so I could be wrong. But yeah, I would say late second half of January or early February.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks. And yeah, so sorry, I'm doing a lot of clarifications because we've got more folks with us today, but we'd originally established a list of kind of service providers, which included everything from Food Not Bombs to the Howard Center in terms of who might help us start to formalize an understanding of public safety. And so we very deliberately said that we would both have kind of organizational focus groups, but then also individual focus groups. And so for the organizations, we're just starting to try to develop a list of contacts for the consultant. Karen, you had your hand up.
I was going to say exactly what Audrey said.
Great.
Has anybody reached out to those organizations? So that would, really shorten the process. So you've already done that, right, Audrey? So
yes, I've reached out to about 34, and 10 have given me info so far. So start.
And Jess, I don't understand your question. So if you want to raise your hand to speak or ask the question verbally, then great.
I keep freezing.
Yeah, my question is, it's this body created or came up with a list of organizations and groups in the city to reach out to. And I was wondering if when the outreach goes to them, they're able to continue to refer you into the community of other organizations you might not be aware of.
Yes, we haven't asked that yet, but I think once we have the contact list of who that Audrey's working on making of just, the right emails of people, I will make sure that we also invite them to give us other folks, or maybe Audrey, you can add that to your outreach now.
I also was typing a second question about how this is related to the listening sessions that Director Green is hosting. I'll send it anyways, just so it's there. I noticed that in those instances, there were a number of individuals who are not affiliated with racial justice or other social justice oriented organizations, and wondering how this RFP relates to the listening session work to find kind of just individuals in the community.
Yeah, so Director Green, Taisha, was the one who signed. So she's kind of our, because we don't have like any city staff per se on this committee. So she was the one who sponsored the resolution. So she knows that it's happening. She and I haven't really had an in-depth discussion yet, which we had intended to do. And then I apologize, we didn't, to get a better understanding of how because they're also working through a consultancy, and how we can make sure we're not duplicating work. So I think that's probably something that should be on my to-do list before we meet with Talitha consultants. Great, I hope that answered your questions. Any other thoughts or folks? Any other thoughts or on this 3.02 item? Great. Then the last one, which is the BPD staffing discussion. And I guess first, just a question on Jabu on how you want to handle this.
Yeah, so City Council, I guess, asked Police Commission to look into this, and I reached out to the Police Commission, and I've heard back from all but one, and that as right now, I was going to set up a meeting for next week, Tuesday, the 12th. I hope to have that posted on board docs by tomorrow. Yeah, to discuss and hopefully be able to give some input to City Council before their meeting on, I believe, which is the 18th.
19th, but close enough.
19th.
Maybe 18th, somewhere around there.
I think it's the 18th, I believe, because the next Police Commission meeting is on the 19th. So yeah, that was going to be my plan of action.
Great. And just to clarify, the Police Commission has not gotten the same presentation yet that the council has gotten. Is that correct?
Not live, but we have received a the presentation in PDF format.
Great. So that's kind of all the discussion we'll have on that today for members of the public. I know some people had specific questions about that, which is the reason also I think there's no materials on it. So it sounds like next Tuesday, the Police Commission will get the same presentation that the council got. The materials will be reposted to the Police Commission meeting. And you all, I believe there's also a public forum during that meeting, so you all can chime in at that time.
Correct.
Great. Any other thoughts on 3.03? Great. Then the next item on our agenda is 4.01, which is next meeting agenda items. So I think two things to discuss here is one, our next meeting, which I'm hoping is early next week, but if it can't be, then it can't be. And then the second item is how the joint committee, I guess I just would like to hear thoughts really from everyone in terms of how we want to handle, and if we want to handle working on the charter oversight question specifically. Go ahead, Stephanie.
So we're going to also hear hopefully about the references for the RFP.
Yes.
And hopefully have a working session with Talitha.
Yes.
If all goes well, great, good.
And then did you have thoughts on whether or not the joint committee works on the charter change as a joint committee?
I think it would be a great discussion. I really appreciated the activist comments tonight, and I really appreciate that pressure to keep the pressure on us. And I think it would just be really good for us to talk through what the landscape looks like, so that this doesn't slide off everybody's, kind of attention for the next few months.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. Go ahead, Karen.
I'm going to shut off my camera. I'm going to freeze again. I think it might be I echo Stephanie's comments, and I think it also you're providing a lot of information sort of in between. So maybe the start of the conversation, and folks can weigh in on this, maybe the start of the conversation is a little bit of a sort of where we are with regard to some of the work that's in the charter change. For example, I would like to talk with the group about the RFPs and the purpose for the RFPs. I think Jess had just commented on that, but that might be something. So maybe having an agenda item to, talk about some backs, some information, because I don't really think that everyone on the call is where we are. And I think we could, if we had 15 minutes, say, of just giving out information like where we are with regard to the racial justice resolution, where we are with regard to some of the charter change asks. I don't know how to condense that, but it just seems like it would be helpful to have an agenda item that's just an info. We're giving info to folks and bringing people up to speed. And then, maybe folks can email in. I don't know, the best way to bring people to where they need to be, but I agree it would be a good discussion and one to have on the agenda.
Great. Other thoughts? Any disagreements? Okay, so looks like we'll have the first two items from our agenda today on the agenda again, a charter change meeting. Perry, I don't know, sorry to put you on the spot. One, if we need anything from the council I think we can just talk about stuff, right? No matter. And then two, if you, I think it would be good to have some presenters there. I don't know if that you just want that to be you, or if it makes sense to pull some other folks in. But if the commission's open to that, I think it might be good to propose some folks there.
Sorry, so to have people present on the oversight charter change at the next joint committee meeting?
Yeah, I think that's what I just heard Karen say, is that it'd be a good time to just have an information exchange to get some of us who weren't paying as much attention up to speed. I don't know if that was Karen's point, but
I think it was the sort of the opposite for the joint committee to talk about what we've been doing, because I dare say we've all been paying attention to charter change, but I think I'm sensitive to using, we're RFP this, RFP that. What's it for? Who's it for? What's the purpose? What article are we on with the work that we have to do to implement the racial justice resolution? So some of those backstories. So it's actually the opposite, where we would talk a little bit about where we are, and it would give folks a chance to really think about what they want to ask, and maybe we can put some of that together so that we are presenting what we're doing.
Okay, sorry, Perry, I don't know if I cut you off.
No. Yeah, that makes sense. If it's, it could be me, it could be other folks too. I guess I'm wondering, are we thinking that this committee will we'll just review it or discuss it, or will we create a proposal? Like, should I reach out to people like ACLU who've had input over this process, or should I, like, not necessarily for next meeting, but for like sort of the duration of the joint committee, or is it just like a one-time, like, let's just review it and kind of dig in a little bit? Or what do you think? What is everyone thinking?
I think maybe I was hasty and we shouldn't have people present next time, and instead we more start with like, do we feel like we need presenters? Like that we have that discussion on like, what do we want to do? Do we want to like start from, to make more of a plan of like, who do we need to talk to? Where are we starting from? What do we want the baseline to be? And to go from, and to have that discussion next time.
Well, I just chime in here. I would suggest having Attorney Blackwood, who did the memo regarding all models of oversight, and was, I believe, present for some of those meetings. She would be a good person to sort of present on what the oversight process, not specifically the resolution, but I think you're asking for what are the oversight options, or you're asking to take up that specific resolution alone?
I don't know that I have the answer to that. I feel like that's a little bit of what commissioners want to do and where the public wants to go. I also hope that, like, I know that Talitha is really supposed to help us like very broadly, and that was their scope, but I also hope, just because I think what we also want is some work sessions with the public on this, so that this process can be as deliberative. But I understand how hard that can be with a 10-person commission where there's already so many voices to then have to make that a realistic work session. So I guess I just want us to have a discussion around how we can use Talitha, how that intermixes with kind of the folks who have already been working on this, like Eileen, like Perry, like people in the community, and how we want to interact with them or things like that. So that we just make a work plan. So I think I haven't thought about this that much because all of this happened yesterday, but hopefully we can create think about it a little bit for the next week and then create a more solid plan. If it sounds like the purview is that the joint committee takes this up. I don't know what the council will feel about that, but as I have not talked to the other councilors yet about what the next step was going to be, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't mean to, you can't see me, but I really wasn't thinking about that at all. I was really more thinking about just, trying to present what we're doing as it relates to, because I did think that the city council would take up the other part of the discussion, which is, where do you go from here with the charter change? But I'm really open to anything. I just want to make sure that the conversation is easy to follow for folks who are going to be tuning in and being part of the process. Because I'm anxious to move on with Talitha as well. I mean, I think the goal here is to really get the consultancies, both of them, on the ground.
Yeah, so yes, I think that having an overall, here's what the joint committee is doing, is a good idea, because it can be confusing. The other thing is the council generally does its work through committees. I assume that Councilor Freeman has thought about probably more than the rest of us about how we want to handle this going forward. So I don't know what committee it would have gone to, but if it was public safety, then no, you're shaking your head.
Well, I'm not sure, because I mean, any committee or any body could take it up and make a recommendation or look at the model. I think if you're talking about the charter change language specifically, that would, of course, at some point end up in the charter change committee at some point. But I mean, I think this body, public safety committee could have taken it up. The police commission could take it up as a project to work on. I don't know. I haven't connected. I mean, I think what I would do is maybe reach out to the mayor's office and try to get a sense of where they're feeling like this should go next, and then kind of start to reach out to the council. I think that, off the cuff, like if the joint committee wanted to take it up and work on it, I don't think that would be problematic, but like I have not talked to anyone about it, so I don't want to speak for anyone and say, oh, so and so whatever signed on and said that was a great idea, and then so I say, no, I think that's a horrible idea, and I'm not trying to say that, but like it off the cuff, it doesn't seem like that would be politically contentious or people would be upset about it. But I think maybe that's incumbent on the counselors and also commissioners we can all reach out to the administration and to the council and sort of see what next steps might be. The council could certainly like pass a formal resolution or communication sending it to a body at this point, but it can also be done sort of informally if there's a general consensus around, well, so this body should take it up, or this body, so they can just sort of add it to their agenda and go from there.
I agree with Perry. It doesn't have to go to charter change, but typically the committee that handles the subject matter will do the groundwork and go to charter change, like just for the charter change or for some kind, like charter change committee really, when I was on it, was for things that are like just all about the charter. The charter is supposed to be kind of like broad, not really specific. And so we can do it and then send it to council. It never needs to go to charter change, or we can go to charter change as well. So I think Perry, as the author, put it in charter change because it needed to be a charter change. Probably would have ended up there anyway. But you know, she's right. Anybody could take, public safety could have taken up, I think.
Sorry, before you go, Perry, anybody who is talking who does not have their camera on, make sure that you identify yourself, because the public and anybody on channel 17 can only see the person who is speaking. So just identify who you are before you speak. So that was Franklin Paulino.
Yeah,
thank you.
I guess so. If this body wanted to like come up with the model, then that model could be like transcribed into sort of charter language, or it could be debated sort of at and discussed at the charter level, how that would be written into the charter. And you know, there could be lots of conversations about what would go into the charter, as Franklin just mentioned, sorry, Councilor Polino just mentioned, and then like what would go into an ordinance or into, you know, sort of departmental directives, or sort of all sorts of other policy stages that would implement it. But you know, when I created the charter language, what I created first was a model that I wanted to see, and then kind of translated it into charter language. So you know, if this body wanted to look at the models and say, this is the model we want, you know, and then send it council or send it wherever to say, you know, whether it needs to go into charter or ordinance or whatever, we could, I mean, I think we could do that. I don't know if, I haven't talked to anyone yet, but I think we certainly could. And it makes sense to me for this body to work on that if that's if folks want to do that, and the public wants us to do that as well.
Great. So Shireen's up next.
Thank you. So a couple of things. I think whatever we do, it needs to be directed by city council, correct? I mean, we don't just presume that we get to weigh in on this. Wouldn't it be something where it's given to us?
I don't know. I don't know that it needs.
Add it to the agenda. Like police commission could just, you could just add this to your agenda. If you want to do it, you can do it. You don't have to be formally asked.
So then the other concern, it's not the other one wasn't a concern, but I am worried about the work we have to do on the two RFPs, on the two the assessment and the public input. I think all of us want to be a part of talking about charter change and what that could look like. The concern is, do we have the capacity at this point with what we're about to embark on with the work with the two outside entities? And I don't think we have any clue what kind of work, but I think the community input one could be enormous in terms of how much time this committee should be devoting to it.
You know,
oh, sorry, Milo, just quickly. I think that's a fair point, Shireen. I do think I don't literally have not thought about this until tonight, about kind of who does handle it next. But I do think if there's, I guess, I know that there's been some frustration, and some is maybe a grand understatement, on the police commission in terms of like how much the council has or hasn't worked with the police commission historically, and like how aligned that has been and not. And so I think, I guess if this does go back, if this goes back more to the drawing board, if it's not just kind of taking the proposal as it is and just putting it through the charter change process again, then I imagine it would go through public safety. So to the extent that we take it up, I think you could still kick it to Perry, Franklin, and I to do more of the work in terms of like discussing it amongst ourselves again. I do think that Talitha Consultants is an opportunity that the council kind of doesn't have, and that the Public Safety Commission kind of doesn't have, to make sure that we are also having a way to engage the public to get input again. So I think to that extent, it would make sense to keep it in this body to some degree. Milo.
Hi, this is Mila Grant. I definitely hear the concerns about capacity, but we're going to have to be prepared to make it work, because I'm still really troubled about how all of this has gone down. And I feel that there was some miscommunication, some lack of communication. We came in too late into the process. So I feel that if we have to divvy up duties, we do have to have a presence from the get-go with this next round of discussing the charter change issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Milo. Any other thoughts from commissioners? Go ahead, Jabu.
Hi. So moving forward with the charter change, I was going to have the police commission look into this, but I was honestly going to wait until after the mayoral election, because I believe that this charter change will have to dovetail pretty significantly with the renegotiation of the police union contract moving forward, so that they're in line. Because I've heard some legal arguments against the charter change that was proposed, being that it goes against their CBA, and I'm not a legal scholar. I don't know how factual that is, but I believe that that those two conversations need to happen almost side by side, and I think the picture will be clear after the mayoral election about how those CBA contracts discussions will go. So I don't know. I was going to personally kind of wait to see how the mayoral election shakes down and formulate a plan from there on.
Thanks, Jabu. Milo, I don't know if your hand is still up or if it's up again.
I just wanted to say that is a very, very good point. There was a lot of items that were brought up that prevented certain conversations from moving forward because of what's in the contract and how what's in the contract was going to be perceived to be a hindrance. And it became, I think, like a fallback for many people that are against the overall concept of change and shifting of power, which is the bottom line, is what people are afraid of. You know, the people who voted against it, this is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of a shift in power, or they don't understand the shift in power, or they're afraid of something else. That's another conversation for another day. But this contract looms over us, and it's going to be very, very difficult. And I guess we're gonna, that's something that we'll have to put on our agenda in terms of to be prepared and making sure people know about how the negotiations are going to occur, what's public, what's not public, how much I don't want to say I mean, jumping on the fact that I have no idea how these conversations start. I think it would be great to have something where we're educated. The public's educated on how this whole process is going to work. And there's some things that we don't want to look at. I do generally support unions. I believe people should have a fair wage. I believe people should have certain benefits. But with regards to discipline, those few pages are, I hate that word problematic because it gets overused a lot, but those few pages are really problematic. And I feel that it's something that really needs to be discussed right now because, as I just said, it was something that was a fallback. It was a fallback. It was an excuse. So that's all I have on that right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Milo. Go ahead, Perry.
I just wanted to clarify in this aspect because it came up a lot. during charter change committee discussions as well, which is just that, you know, City Attorney Eileen Blackwood did advise us that that her review is that the charter would sort of trump, for lack of a better word, the collective bargaining agreement. And then a few people reached out to me and said that they had that other attorneys had reached out to them and given a different legal review, saying that it that they were concerned that it wouldn't do that. And so what I agreed to was saying we'll keep it in at this point, and then because there's a long public hearing process, we can kind of review that, and then if we kind of start to see more evidence that that would be an issue, I think we could kind of strike the language that would have conflicted with the CBA. My understanding is that most of it wouldn't have conflicted, but that there are a few parts. I can, just so to be transparent at this point, I can just reach out to the folks who reach out to me and ask them if it's possible to get those attorneys to review the language and sort of look and sort of highlight any of the language that they think would come into conflict with the CBA based on their legal review, and then get that out to this committee or anyone who's interested in seeing that. I do think that if I'm not sure how people on the joint committee feel, but like if we want to see this on the November ballot, that means it has to come to council in like August. I don't know. You always count so much more backwards because it has to be warned so much earlier. So I don't know if people are wanting to see it on the ballot in next March, then we have more time. But I don't want us to get wait too long, not necessarily just this committee, but like as a city, if we are thinking about getting it on the ballot sooner rather than later, just because I don't want us to feel like we're scrambling again, I guess is a little bit of my concern. But I do hear if people feel like this committee doesn't have the capacity, you know, that's fair. If people feel like we do and we should, I'm also open to that. I just do want us to be like sort of, it's so weird to me with charter changes because you have to like plan so far ahead because it goes through such a long process. That I just wanted to be mindful about that, and then mention the aspect about the conflict with the CBA. I will try to get that ball rolling with doing some research on that.
Randall and me.
Yeah, thanks. No, I was just going to say this is a response to Chair Gamache. Yeah, so I mean, I do think it would be one of the responsibilities of the Police Commission to provide recommendations with respect to kind of the upcoming contract negotiations between the city and the Burlington Police Officers Association. It'd be our responsibility to provide suggestions for that, regardless of who the mayor is. And so I think that kind of we don't want to delay that kind of discussion for too long, just in terms of looking with an eye towards what's possible, because it will still be our responsibility, I think, to put forward suggestions. I think some of that does sound to me to be properly the domain of the Police Commission specifically, rather than the Joint Committee. But I do think that kind of looking at additional models of policing and how to incorporate those models into a charter change is properly the subject of this Joint Committee. So I just want to make sure and I do think that we might have the capacity to do all of that, because I agree with what's been said by some, that it's important work and that we're going to need to do it anyway. So we might as well try to keep doing it in parallel as much as possible. Thanks.
Great. So my reflection on that is, yeah, I think to some extent there's something we'll have to wait on in terms of mayoral elections, but I also think it's better to start sooner rather than later for all the points Perry said, but also to the points Randall said, like how much are we trying to inform that process, if at all. And then, yeah, I think the process going forward may be to make next week a little bit of a work plan in terms of, it sounds like what I'm hearing is there's parts that it makes sense for the Joint Committee to work on, and then the Public Safety Committee and the Police Commission will almost work like subcommittees of the Joint Committee just for this issue, not generally. In terms of, but that we will kind of work on this, or thinking, as long as I guess council and the administration are okay with it, that we'll kind of take this on, and then some parts of it that seems most relevant to just the Police Commission can tackle but keep us informed as necessary. And then some parts of it that just the Public Safety Committee should tackle. I will also say we don't know what the Public Safety Committee will be in April. It could be a completely different group of people. So just so folks know that. So it'll be good to have you all as, I guess, I don't know when I guess that's in May is when the reappointments are. It'll be good to have continuity through the process no matter what. Shireen.
I just want to say this just so I don't hear in, criticism that I'm saying that this isn't an important issue. I think it's incredibly important, and I'm not afraid of spending the time doing the work. It's just a matter of the other things that we have been given before. So I just wanted to be clear that I'm not saying that we don't have the wherewithal. It's just making sure that we're working on items in the order we're supposed to be working on them in terms of do these assessments or the work with the experts, will those inform, on the work on the charter change? I don't know, but just wanted to be clear that I do think we can do it.
Great. Okay. Thanks everyone. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Perry.
Oh, did we get to this person in the Q&A who is asking if they can still make a comment? And I didn't know if you as the chair wanted to allow for a comment at this stage, or I just saw.
I haven't seen this.
I just saw it.
I only see Martha and Jessica.
I know I accidentally hit the answer live button, which put it in the answered section because I just hit the button.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, if Liam has a quick comment, I'd be happy to do that before we adjourn. I don't think they've spoken.
Hello.
Hey, Liam.
Hi. Well, it looks like Miro isn't on the call, so this was addressed to him. But instead, I guess I would like to address it to the no votes. This is in response to one of Miro's stated concerns, which is as follows. Specifically, that when the public calls, we are able to respond with professional public employees who are trained for the full range of emergencies and needs that the public expects to be addressed. And to that, I would respond that murderous cops are in and of themselves a public safety risk. As it stands, we have citizens too scared to call the police because there is a very real demonstrated threat that they might not make it out alive. So I'd like to ask what everyone is doing to protect them. I would love to see a police force prepared for a wide range of emergencies. This includes de-escalation, and that requires removing officers who cannot respond appropriately. Thank you.
Thanks, Liam. Any other commissioners before we adjourn? Great. Would love. Oh, go ahead, Shannon.
Sorry, did I miss? Did you set a date for the meeting?
Oh no! Oh my gosh! Thank you so much, Shannon. So we can't do Tuesday the 12th. Are folks available on Monday the 11th? Because I know you love back-to-back meetings.
I'm literally free any other night, so just set it and I'll be there.
Great. No,
I have a potential conflict on the 11th, but I'm not sure yet. I would just say schedule it and I'll try to make it work.
Okay, so let's set it for the 11th at 5:30. And Randall, if there's any way that we could do it a little earlier or later to accommodate your conflict, let us know before 48 hours before the meeting, before Wednesday, I guess.
This is Monday, the 11th.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion to adjourn on that.
Moved by Councillor Paulino.
Franco Paulino. Thank you.
I will second that.
Seconded by
Commissioner Durfee. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Durfee. Thank you. Any discussion?
Just quick discussion. I know there was a question about whether or not there was a discussion of staffing. I'll just repeat what was said before, that I'm happy adjourning because the staffing discussion will happen at the policing special council the special meeting for the police commission next week on Tuesday.
Yes, so there will be 2 meetings, one of the joint committee on the 11th and one of the police commission on the 12th. So members of the public, please feel free to join that.
And the staffing conversation will only be at the police commission meeting, correct?
Yes.
And what time is the police commission meeting?
6.
It'll be either at 6 or 6:30. I'll post that on board docs tomorrow. I'm waiting to hear back from one person, but either at 6 or 6:30.
And that's on Tuesday, the 12th.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
See you next week.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.